Hi again, welcome to River Processing. We're going to look at river data import now, one of the most incredibly important parts of all the work that we're doing here. We click River Data Import and we're going to import Infomap ASCII data. We'll look at the Enforce data in a minute. And you can see here as this comes in, immediately it pops up the main information help with all the information in there that you're going to need. It's basically a reminder. So when you get here, you're going to either import the main sections, which is in this area here. I can click this and I'm going to pull in some Tiverton data. We called it Tiverton All Data -131 because I suspect what happened was that we imported the data and then we found a problem with section 131 and needed to re-import it. So we created it saying it's -131 on the end. Let's just bring that in there. It then gets appended with the suffix sections.dat. And we're going to leave for the moment the main outfalls, walls and so on. Look at the red text here. That's all important. And we'll come back to the outfalls in a minute. So we've now got a data file here. Before we go into that, I want to show you what has happened in Enforce. And here we have the overall plan in Enforce for Tiverton. So you can see it all here. There's quite a big area down in the middle of Tiverton. I forget now how many sections, 50, 60, 70 or so. And so when we imported, we brought the data in because we had set the left and right bank LB and RB codes. The left bank is a green circle with a cross. The right bank is a magenta circle with a cross. You can see immediately where it all is and if there's anything that's missing. Now, immediately here, you can see that there is a couple of red ones over here. Where it shouldn't be. It's got right bank 106. It should be the river's flowing north to south in front of you. And so we can see this section up here has got a right bank point there, HB 107. And then there's a green one there. We know it's like that because we can click on it and it will tell us LB 107 with a. But the issue on the section 105, and you'll see in a minute why I'm telling you this, is that there is no obvious right bank point down there. All you've got to do is to come into Enforce and say, well, I'm going to make it in that format. Let's put that aside for the moment and import this data. The other thing that is of real importance, you can look in here for all your codes and you can see the code, number, easting, northing, height, any dimensions that would have been in there, there's some there. There's more just general notes, height 1.08. That all gets imported. The remarks from your data loggers get imported into the DAT file as comments. We're just going to click on this, say that's the one we want. We've got it so far, and we're going to import it. I've done it already. Let's just overwrite that. And it says it's got some outfalls there very close together. So it's looking within the data and checking some outfalls, even though we're not importing all the main river length outfalls. These are to do with some of the sections. It says possible duplicates. And it does very quickly does that, and it says, oh dear, we've got a problem here, error in function split. That's some visual basic language, and it's telling you there's a record and it's just really too much information in it, but we can click past that. Let's see what happens. So it's doing that at the moment. It'll come in fairly shortly. Okay, so it now tells us here, you can see that in the bottom, additional data saved and so on, useful comments coming in, project data, converted file, and the report is stored in the report subfolder. This is really quite an important one. We created a system that would allow us to graphically look to see what's happening. Even though we've got Enforce and all that wonderful software there, we're going to say we want to display a report, and we want to check the point codes in the DXF, and it's going to tell us, oh, we've got some problems here. We saw just now there wasn't a right bank record for section 105. And there wasn't a left bank record for 106. I forget whether there was or not, it doesn't matter. But it's an attempt to alert you to the section numbers that you've got in your DAT file. They are the original site numbers that you have used on site, and it doesn't matter where they are, where you started, because we can always renumber the DAT file from bottom upwards and sort it out and renumber. So if you started on section, say 1.50, because you didn't know how many you needed below you, you've gone 151, 152, 153. You then might jump to 160, 161. All those can be dispensed with later when we renumber the file from 101 upwards, and it'll keep it much more in a continuous numerical ascending order. So we've got these records here, and it says it'll be missing and all the rest of it. So there's a useful note there. Once that is saved in the records in the report subdirectory, but this is what I wanted to bring to your attention, was that we've got the whole of the raw survey data imported and simply plotted on the individual sections. It's brought in quite a number of the outfalls as well in this case, and that they can be dealt with later. If we go back to here to this, we're down the bottom right there was a weir there, and so we've got 104, 10 is the section number, the point numbers are there, and the code as well. It's already converted that, doing lots of checks on the import. And so these are simply the raw data points. Now, if you had made a mistake, say for example up here somewhere, and you wanted to, so you discovered, or the system would tell you, I was on 132, but I inadvertently, on a part of the section, because I was tired at the end of the day, I called it point 133, section point number 1.33, the code. It would flag up here, and I haven't got the samples, it would put it in blue text or some other format that we've developed here that would show you, and also in the report, that section, a point that is due for section 1.33 is more than 20 meters off the alignment, and it's showing under 132, in which case it's probably best thing to go back to your Enforce data and down in the background here, and rename whatever point number it was to what you want it to be. It should be 132. You've got mixed up with 133. Doesn't matter. Best to sort it out in Enforce and then re-export inwards. So I'm going to switch that off now. We've done that import, and we can then exit and then go back into data processing, and but we could potentially, before we do anything else, have a quick look at the CAD file that we've got. Here it is here, 9th of January 25. That's our imported file. It's going to be very rough, and if we click on that and go past the EACSD, not sure, we haven't got structure numbering in there, but it will attempt to open up the file, and no, it's dropped out because it needed further processing. So in which case we'd go into here and we'd start the river reference and start numbering the structures and all the rest of it. So we'll bomb out of that back into river data import, have a quick look at the Enforce data. We've done so many options over the years. The only other option really is the Enforce TRS data, and I can't show you any more within that, except to say this format was developed to show from Enforce data. This is a typical set of data that we can pull out of Enforce. Here it is here. I'm going to zoom all, This was the spillway at Talabont in South Wales, where it's coming down from the spillway in the bottom left. It starts the overflow to the spillway, comes underneath the roadway, swings round on some steps, and then goes down into an outfall pool there. You can probably see this better here. Here it is. Here's a profile of the this section, and we created, because they wanted 1 meter interval cross sections. You can see coming off the spillway, the top left, and then coming down to a series of steps down into the plunge pool at the end and out at the bottom there. Now, in order to create all those automatically without having to try and fiddle around with them, you can export out of Enforce a .trs file, which takes the alignment and, for example, in here's your sections. You can there's the 1 meter chainage intervals, and it will go all the way along. There was something like 300, nearly 200, 281, nearly 300 sections there. And if you click on that, it should come up with a view. On this side, that's Tiverton. I can't see it immediately. Let's leave that. But the fact is, you can get a standard multiple.trs text file coming out of Enforce, which is based on the centerline string down the spillway, and you can then export that data, huge amounts of data, automatically into the software, the river surveying software. And what you will have, though, is the endpoints of those text files blocks for every 1 meter interval cross section, in effect, are the left and right bank points. So it's not fantastically flexible. You can modify it, but it does mean you can get these huge amounts of automatic cross sections coming out of the model in Enforce. Let's go back into here and attempt to import an outfalls and banks walls file, which is where you've surveyed along the watercourse and you've got all the bank levels, wall levels, and the outfall levels here. So we're looking at here, I've got Tiverton all outfalls. Let's see what happens. And it automatically comes in here on the left, and it says Tiverton all outfalls, additional data for long sections. And we're going to, if we click on that, it blocks out the top and said, I only want the additional banks, walls, levels, and outfalls data. And we're then going to click on this. It says possible duplicates, it then, there we are, it's done something, saving data, and it produces in the outfalls, banks, walls subdirectory of data files. There it is then, the files that are going to be used later on in the software, rather like the long section, intersection point on the long section. This can then be, you can get the chainage calculations of all the points and outfalls up the long section, and it will then plot it on the long section. It gets very complicated. But here we are here, and it's created outfalls, etc.csv. There we are. There's your raw data import coming in, and where you've got an outfall, it's got OFX 100 and all the rest of it. Now that is basically to do with the River 1 watercourse invert level and the easting and northing coordinates, and we'll get out of that. But it does mean you can totally separately import that data rather than getting involved with all the cross-section information. So that's basically the information there. And we've done the view. We're going to go no, we're going to click out, and we'll be on to the next video in a minute. Thank you.